Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, the podcast from Australia for science and reason.
Hello and welcome to the Skeptic Zone podcast, episode number 440. I wonder what that means for the numerologists out there. 440, no, 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 0 is still 8, so it's an 8. Divide it by the number you first thought of, which is 362, plus the 6, carrier, the 2, Welcome to the Skeptic Zone, episode number 440 for the 26th of March, 2017. Richard Saunders here with you from Sydney, Australia. 2 plus 0 is 2, plus 1 is 3, plus 1 is 10. There's a no. Yes, I've been looking into numerology lately as part of the prediction project I'm doing this year. Some people use numerology to predict the future. Good luck. More about project prediction, an update from what I told you last week towards the end of the show. It's really interesting to look at predictions over the last 17 years. But we're going to kick off this week's show with a look at a device called Geoclense, which is a lump of resin you plug into the wall and does nothing. But it will cost you $150. What is it? Why are people paying $150 for a block of plastic or resin which does nothing? Find out as we bring you a review from the good people at Choice Magazine. Ah, yes, the old Orgon Energy at it again. And following that, it's Heidi Robertson back again with her Raw Skeptic Report. This week, she's an angry gardener. Oh, she's so angry. She's looking at something called agrohomeopathy. No, this isn't being angry, really. It's to do with treating plants with magical sugar water. Yes, homeopathy for plants. What's that about? Sounds pretty crazy to me. Find out with the Raw Skeptic Report a little bit later on in the show. Also this week we have some more Brew Ha Ha for you with Kelly Wong from AustraliaScience.tv. Kelly's going to be looking at the latest information, the latest discoveries about dinosaurs and could cause a rethink of the dinosaur family tree. Interesting stuff. Brew Ha Ha coming up a bit later on. Now, I was unable to do my regular radio spot this week here in Sydney, so at the last moment, Tim Mendham, who we often quote here on the Skeptic Zone, and you hear from time to time, filled in for me. And he was talking to Mike Williams about cryptozoology, Bigfoot, monsters, Loch Ness, big cats, all that sort of stuff. And you can listen to Tim's segment by visiting skepticzone.tv and looking at the show notes for this week's episode. And you'll find it at the bottom of the running order. Do creatures like Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster exist? And speaking of other skeptical-type people, my very good friend Ian Bryce from Australian Skeptics will be visiting Melbourne pretty soon, and he'll be giving a public talk at the Mordialic Skeptics on the 11th of April, all about gravity waves. He knows a lot. He knows more about gravity waves than, well, me or you, I bet. He's very knowledgeable man. If you want to hear his talk all about gravity waves on the 11th of April, check out the Mordi Skeptics, and I'll supply a link on the show notes, or just go to Facebook and do a search for Mordi Skeptics, M-O-R-D-I Skeptics. Oh, in all my excitement for this week, I forgot to give you a weather update for Sydney. Hot and steamy. The rain has gone away for the moment. Oh, we've had a wet March so far, and it's been replaced by bright, brilliant sunshine, which of course is making everything steamy. You should see the grass, by the way, around Sydney, because it's been so wet and so warm. The grass in the parks and on the near the footpaths, the sidewalks, has just gone crazy. It's a jungle out there. But today, at least, the sun is shining, which is good for washing. Yes, it's good for washing. But now it's time for me to run downstairs and fix myself some poached eggs on wholemeal toast or sourdough toast, I think, with a side of mushrooms, a bit of pepper, just a splash of Tabasco sauce, because I like that sort of stuff. Sounds pretty good to me. While I'm enjoying that, I hope you enjoy the Skeptic Zone. As long-time Skeptic Zone listeners will certainly know, every year, sometimes twice a year, I and other skeptics like to go to the local Festival of Mind, Body, Spirit, otherwise known to us, of course, as Mind, Body, Wallet. One of the companies I've seen exhibiting and selling products there year after year is a company called Orgone Effects Australia. Now, this is an outfit that sells no end of products based around the mythical orgone energy, something invented or dreamt up by one Wilhelm Reich last century, and I'll go into a bit more of that next week, I think, because there is more to this story than we'll cover today. Now, they sell wristbands which harmonize your body, mobile phone and Wi-Fi radiation harmonizers, a little sticker you put on the back of your watch, which is a harmonizer, somehow. Lots of resin pendants and things like that. Ionic shoe insoles, car EMR harmonizers, Schumann generators, which looks like to be a blob of resin once again. Aircraft cabin harmonizers, another block of resin. Water and food energizer plates. Ionic toothbrush, however that works, I can't imagine. A patch you can stick into the back of your shirt. Cloth harmonizer patch. The list goes on. But it would appear one of their better selling items is the Geoclense Home Harmonizer for $150. This is a block of resin about an inch by 2 inches, or something like 5 centimeters by 10 centimeters. And it plugs into a power outlet, and if I remember what I was told, you don't even have to turn the power outlet on for this thing to have an effect. So confident are the company in this product, they even produced a short commercial, which I'll play now.
Feeling physical symptoms of lethargy, nausea, headaches and other discomfort? It could be from the electromagnetic radiation being emitted from your digital TV screen or microwave. Geoclense is a solid-state negative ion generator. It balances the positive ion known as harmful energy. With so many appliances in your home emitting electromagnetic energy, the wise move to protect your family's health is to invest in a Geoclense.
Well, some months ago, after seeing this company, Orgone Effects, once more at the Mind Body Wallet Festival, in fact, the bizarre thing is, and I'll be covering more of this next week, as soon as they saw me walking along the particular aisle where their stall was, they ran and got security. So by the time I actually reached their stall, they had a security guard there, so I couldn't even talk to them. Why? Because last year I spoke to one of the representatives for about 10 minutes or so, explaining my point of view and offering him the Australian Skeptics $100,000 prize, which he listened to me, and it was all very civil, but a year can do strange things, and it appears now the last thing they want is skeptical attention. I wonder why. If their products work, I wonder why. But it appears that the Australian skeptics aren't the only people who are somewhat skeptical of the products being sold by Orgone Effects Australia. And our friends at Choice magazine have reviewed this Geoclense device. And this appears on the Choice website, www.choice.com.au, and an article by Ashley Iredale. And don't forget that Choice magazine is completely independent, although they can receive tips about products from members of the public. In fact, I think they're quite happy to receive tips on products by members of the public. After that, it's completely at arm's length. So if a certain skeptic you may have heard about actually tipped them off to this product, that was the last this certain skeptic would have heard about it, until until we read on their website, published on the 6th of March 2017. Geoclense Home Harmonizer Review. Does this device help you feel less physically and emotionally drained? Or does it just drain your bank account? Good vibes guaranteed? The Geoclense Home Harmonizer promises to neutralise electromagnetic radiation, radio frequencies and cosmic energy, all of which can apparently sap your energy, rob you of sleep and drain your life force. In our modern world, these things are impossible to avoid, but this solid block of plastic promises to bring an end to your suffering. Do you need it? The sunlight glints off the hologram in your power band wristband as you pilot your energy polarizer-equipped Brock Commodore homeward. You're confident that the energy flows of both your car and occupant are safely aligned, but you're still troubled. You wonder to yourself, your family having long since refused to travel with you, how you can rid your home and or office of negative effects of electromagnetic radiation while at the same time freeing your wallet of that burdensome $150 for which you have no useful purpose. Luckily, Orgone Effects Australia has the solution, introducing Geoclense. So, what is it? A solid block of green plastic resin with a plug moulded into the back, Geoclense is sold as a, quote, geopathic stress and electromagnetic radiation harmonizer, end quote. When plugged into the PowerPoint, it's claimed to neutralise the effects of a startlingly long list of supposedly harmful radiation and radio and electromagnetic frequencies from sources such as Wi-Fi, mobile phone towers, death imprints, and negative psychic impressions, solar flares, your home's smart meter, and even your neighbour's television. Unlike other fake energy harmonizers, which Orgone Effects Australia claim can only create imaginary energy balancing fields of 6 meters or less, Geoclense is claimed to harmonize electromagnetic radiation fields and energy imprinting from electrical appliances, wiring and power lines up to 200 meters from your property, and the Earth magnetic grid lines up to 400 meters away. Coincidentally, this is how wide of a berth your friends will give you once you explain the benefits of your expensive new doorstop. A single Geoclense Home Harmonizer is even powerful enough to harmonize interdimensional imprinting radiation, personal beams, and a variety of other made-up stuff for up to 12 acres, or for an entire 59-story building. Still not convinced? The proof lies in impressive Kirlian biofeedback photography, a dubious technique which is claimed to capture a subject's mood and well-being on film, a claim which various studies have repeatedly debunked. Digging into the pseudo-science behind Geoclense reveals it's based on principles of orgonomy, which is described as the field of esoteric energy or hypothetical universal life force. Orgonomy was pioneered by Dr. Wilhelm Reich, an Austrian psychoanalyst who died while serving time for refusing to obey an injunction against selling quack medical devices. Orgonomic principles also inspired the aforementioned Brock Energy Polarizer, a device of magnets and crystals that the Australian car racing champ Peter Brock claimed improved car performance. And as a side note, Peter Brock won the Australian Skeptics Bent Spoon Award for this claim way back in the 1980s. Choice testing. Excited to rid the Choice Labs of the imprints of previous occupants' emotional distress and illness, we put Geoclense through its paces in a laboratory setting, using sensitive instruments to test every measurable claim. We tested Geoclense's impact on the Earth's magnetic field by placing it next to a sensitive magnetic compass and measuring the deviation of the compass needle. The needle was unmoved, as we have been by Geoclense's claims. We measured whether Geoclense increased the number of photons in the atmosphere by suspending a light meter over it as we turned it on and off. Even in a darkened room, we found the lack of any measurable change was most enlightening. We measured its ability to increase the oxygen levels in a room by comparing oxygen levels after using the Geoclense for 5 minutes as a baseline. Oxygen was at a constant 20.9% for both results, so this claim turned out to be full of hot air. We measured Geoclense effects on electromagnetic fields from a computer monitor and a power transformer using a multi-field EMF meter. Both electrical appliances generated strong EMF fields, but we found Geoclense's inability to make any difference quite shocking. As Geoclense is said to be effective because it generates negative ions, we compared it to a known source of negative ions with an electrometer. Despite strong performance from our commercial negative ion generator, Geoclense generated no ions whatsoever, and the only thing negative was our opinion of it. Finally, we even conducted one of Orgone Effects Australia's own recommended tests, placing the palm of your hand on a fridge. With Geoclense, the fridge toucher should experience a calming, energizing sensation through the body. Our test subjects, despite extensive experience touching fridges, reported no effect. However, we did substantiate one of Geoclense's claims, that it uses absolutely no power. Hardly surprising for an inert lump of plastic, but it does beg the question as to why you need to plug it in at all. Perhaps it's to distract you from the large sum of money you just wasted. Choice verdict. Our testing shows Geoclense has all the effectiveness of a tinfoil hat, but lacks the hat's potential to be used for food preparation. So, if you are thinking of blowing $150 on a block of plastic with a plug on it, why not buy a roll of aluminium foil instead? The money you save could buy you a subscription to Choice, a resource that's been proven to work. And that review of the Geoclense from Orgone Effects Australia was brought to us by the good people at Choice Magazine, a magazine I read regularly here in Australia, and I encourage you, if you're in Australia, to visit their website, choice.com.au, and why not become a subscriber? They do independent testing, as I said before, of a range of consumer products, and it's a great benchmark if you're interested in buying something new. But more about Orgone Effects Australia and some of the other adventures we've had with them next week.
Calling all Skeptic Zone listeners. Do you live in or near Glasgow, or are you planning to visit sometime? Then you're in luck, because the Glasgow Skeptics have got your Monday nights sorted. We're committed to filling up every available Monday night with talks on science and skepticism. Past speakers include Eugenie Scott, Jerry Coyne, Michael Marshall, Nate Phelps, Tom and Cecil from Cognitive Dissonance, PZ Myers, Richard Wiseman, AC Grayling, Noah Heath and Eli from The Scathing Atheist, Simon Singh, Rebecca Watson, and a multitude of local academics and skeptics. There's literally nothing better you can do on a Monday night in Glasgow that doesn't involve taking your clothes off. So come join us. We've also got a vibrant online community. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and get involved with the discussion. Glasgow Skeptics. Self-help for your brain.
It's the Raw Skeptic Report with Heidi Robertson.
Hello everyone, it's Heidi Robertson from the Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters. Skeptics know all about the improbability of homeopathy. The principles of like cures like and succussion involving the original active ingredient being progressively diluted and therefore somehow more potent as the water retains a memory of the original active ingredient. Often, the end product will contain no trace of the original substance in it. It is literally a sugar pill or liquid that is given to the patient to cure all of the ills. It's easy to laugh at this modality, the absurdity of it, the kind of witchcraft-like vibe of it, until you consider how dangerous it can be in certain situations. But how can it be dangerous taking a sugar pill with no active ingredient, you ask? Let me give you just a couple of real-life examples. A friend of mine suffers from a life-threatening allergy, otherwise known as anaphylaxis. His reaction is as a result of tick bites. He's allergic to a protein in the tick saliva, which is injected as the tick draws blood out to feed itself. Anaphylaxis commonly occurs seconds to minutes after exposure, resulting in swelling of the airways and a dangerous drop in blood pressure. His reaction is so severe that he has had to put his country house on the market to move closer to a hospital in town. He's had a couple of close calls before. On one occasion, his breathing was extremely laboured. He was blue and losing consciousness when the ambulance got to him. Of course, he carries his adrenaline auto-injector everywhere with him, and he has had to self-inject on more than one occasion. There have been many instances that I've personally seen as a paramedic where the person has no time to even get to their bag to get the adrenaline. That's how quickly these reactions can happen. In fact, the adrenaline auto-injector we use in Australia, called the EpiPen, has had a change of design from cylindrical to oval-shaped as a result of an incident here in Australia. There was a lady that had an anaphylactic reaction whilst alone in her house. She reached up top of her fridge to retrieve her EpiPen, dropped it, it rolled under the fridge, and she was unable to reach it. She died as a result. Okay, so there's no question that anaphylaxis is not to be trifled with. So this friend of mine with a diagnosed anaphylaxis had another well-meaning friend who took it upon themselves to visit a herbal medicinals shop to get him something to treat his anaphylaxis. He was given a homeopathic preparation by the homeopath or naturopath on duty who did not feel it was necessary to see the actual patient or ask any further questions. Furthermore, the preparation came with verbal instructions to take it prior to his EpiPen when having a life-threatening reaction. The person was told to tell my anaphylactic friend that if he took the sugar water quickly enough, he was probably not going to need the EpiPen at all. The remedy was a 30C preparation of, now let me pronounce this badly, Ixodes holocolossus, which is a species of Australian paralysis tick. Hahnemann, the founder of homeopathy, thought that 30C dilutions were most effective for most homeopathic remedies. The homeopathic remedy that is reasonably likely to contain just one molecule of the original substance is 12C. So we can be pretty assured that a 30C dilution contains none of the original ingredient. So essentially my friend was given sugary magic water for a life-threatening condition without having been seen by the practitioner, who thought it was perfectly reasonable to just pass it on with the verbal instructions via a third party. Not at all dodgy, right? I found out about all this accidentally when I was chatting to him one day and the subject of his anaphylaxis came up. Needless to say, I put a complaint into the HCCC, which resulted in them calling the herbal shop, who denied the entire incident had ever taken place, despite photos I had sent in of the magic water preparation with their place of business clearly labelled on the bottle. The HCCC told them to please not do it again, a rather frustrating outcome. Anecdotally, I've heard that they have done similar things since. Another friend recently contacted me asking whom to complain to after the same herbal medicinal shop had prescribed a range of naturopathic preparations for her psychotic son, who subsequently had to be hospitalised. Listeners may also be aware of homeoprophylaxis, which involves homeopathic remedies that are designed to replace vaccinations. That's right, sugar pills or liquid that they claim will protect children and babies against diphtheria, whooping cough, measles and so on. Travellers can get homeoprophylaxis too, even purchased online if travelling to countries or regions where malaria is endemic. They can also order a homeopathic first aid kit to go with it. It's clear to see how this brand of homeopathy is potentially extremely dangerous as well, and may give people a false sense of security that they and their kids are actually protected when they most definitely are not from infectious diseases. There are some applications for homeopathy that can safely be mocked and ridiculed rather than scaring the bejesus out of us. The other day, actually it was the other month, actually it was last year, that's how long I've been meaning to do this report, I was up at my local cafe, having ordered a morning mocha, and as I was waiting, I grabbed a copy of one of the local rags that had been left on the table. I often have a look at this particular newspaper to see what new weird and wacky pseudoscience has been spawned in the northern rivers lately. So this particular morning, as I was perusing the services offered by local crystal healers, psychics, thought leaders and remote horse healers, I saw something I had not encountered before and nearly sustained a burn to my left nostril as I snorted my hot mocha. Have you ever heard of agrohomeopathy? No, it's not sugar water that is really, really angry, although I think I will refer to it now as angry gardening. It's homeopathy for your garden. I'll read out bits of the article. I'll change my voice a smidge when I come to the usual anti-science tropes, which I'm sure you will all recognise. Quote, agrohomeopathy is the use of homeopathic remedies on plants. A Google search will give you 28,000 results, as more and more people move away from chemicals and their inherent dangers toward natural therapies for themselves, their pets and their gardens. For too long now, we have seen the so-called experts fiddling with our food to the point where much of it, like genetically modified food, is cancer-forming. Many people are waking up to the fact that they are doing their families a great favour simply by growing a few organic veggies. So let's take a closer look at agrotherapy, which is a chemical-free, non-toxic method of growing food and any other crops, because agrotherapy makes your plants resistant to disease and pests by strengthening them from the inside out. Agrotherapy helps to strengthen the plant's structure and inner workings to achieve optimal health. End quote. So I looked further online to see what other people had written about angry gardening, and it came as no surprise that the website Homeopathy Plus, run by Fran Sheffield, has weighed in on the topic. Listeners may recall that the Federal Court of Australia has found that Homeopathy Plus and Fran Sheffield, quote, engaged in conduct that was misleading and deceptive or was likely to mislead and deceive, end quote, when it declared on its website that the currently available vaccine for whooping cough was unreliable and ineffective. So what did Fran have to say about angry gardening? She relates the following story on the website. Quote, it began with an apple tree. Cavarage, author of the groundbreaking book Homeopathy for Farm and Garden, turned his attention to agrohomeopathy, the use of homeopathic remedies on plants and soil, following a chance discovery in Switzerland in 1986. I was treating a family and their animals who are patients of mine, he says. The mother of the family asked if it was possible to use homeopathy on plants, and I told her it was, although I knew nothing about it. She said that being a herbal wizard, I should be able to figure something out. The mother wanted Cavarage to heal her apple trees, which were covered in bright red spots resembling rust, were unusually thirsty, and were producing sour-tasting fruit at a time when they should have been ripe for picking. The apple trees were on the south side of the farmhouse. They were covered in red spots, and the owner said that the first one had developed the spots 3 days earlier, after which, one by one, all of them caught it, which is quite fast. It reminded me of the rapid onset of scarlet fever in children. So then I set about finding out if the disease displayed other features of scarlet fever. I asked "Are they thirsty?" And she said, "Yes, they need watering 3 times a day." I always work on the principle that, like a 3-legged stool, a diagnosis needs 3 legs to stand on. I had my 3 legs, the speed at which the disease spread, the spots, and the thirst. They all pointed to the remedy, belladonna. A few days after treating each tree with the belladonna remedy, the spots had disappeared and the apples were sweet and juicy again. This was my eureka moment, he remembers. From then on, I was determined to develop agrohomeopathy further. End quote. Another website claims, quote, "Agrohomeopathy not only treats the disease symptoms of the plant and performs preventive actions, but can also treat traumas retained in the biological memory of the plant, which resulted from conditions such as forced hybridization, moving to places outside their natural habitats, or exaggerated fertilization that maximizes production to the extreme." End quote. Who knew that plants had a traumatic memory from being forced into hybridization? I would like to know what dilutions these remedies come in. If indeed they are homeopathic, it is likely that the angry gardener is simply applying more water to them, which I'm told plants rather like. Well, that's it from me this time. This has been Heidi Robertson from the Northern Rivers Vaccination Supporters. I'm signing off to go water my plants and make sure they've not been too traumatised by their ancestors' hybridisations.
And now, direct from the cafe at Australia's Science Channel, it's Brew Ha Ha with Kelly Wong.
Forget everything you know about dinosaurs, because it could all be wrong. What if we told you that dinosaurs may be older than we thought, and that they could have originated in the UK? Sounds weird, but that's exactly what's being argued at the moment. A lot of what we know about the dinosaur family tree dates back to 130 years ago, but we've learnt a huge amount since then, so some Cambridge researchers did some digging around and found it was time for an update. They've recalculated the evolution of the dinosaurs, and it completely changes some of the things we thought we knew. According to them, the dinosaurs emerged millions of years earlier than we thought, and 2 fossils found in the UK are placed pretty close to the base of this new family tree. Of course, back then the world looked very different with supercontinents, so the UK wasn't really the UK as we know it now. But what does this mean for everyone's favourite dino T-Rex? Well, she's going to need to be reclassified as a different type of dinosaur. The new tree suggests the features they have should really place them in a different evolutionary group than what we've known. There are still a lot of questions, but it also gives a lot of answers. It could be that just like the backpacker whacking in your local pub, dinosaurs too started in the UK and spread around the world looking for adventure.
For more Brew Ha Ha and Australian science, head for www.australiascience.tv.
Now on Belfast FM, we turn to the personal ads. Easygoing and confident skeptic seeks other critical thinkers for fun, laughter and good times. Must be willing to apply logic liberally and a good listener. Expect something new and interesting every month. Come and meet me in Belfast in Northern Ireland. If this sounds like you, check out my profile on belfastskeptics.com. Music by Kevin MacLeod.
As mentioned on last week's episode of the Skeptic Zone, the Great Prediction Project is going on, ploughing on, getting through. It's really interesting collecting all these predictions. Now, for the past week, I've been going through hundreds and hundreds of back issues of a magazine called Woman's Day here in Australia, starting from the year 2000, working up to the present day. I'm only up to 2007, I think. And it's quite eerie in a way to go through all these issues week by week and see the news and the gossip of celebrities and royals at the time and what was happening. And a very disconcerting feeling knowing that, for example, Steve Irwin would suddenly die, and working up to that issue, then bammo. Or there was a very lovely actress called Belinda Emmett, who I actually had the pleasure of meeting many years ago, who sadly died about 11 years ago, 12 years ago. A very young actress, and it was very sad at the time, of course. And seeing her struggles with the cancer in the pages of the magazine, and knowing, sadly, despite what was being written, what would happen eventually. It's also interesting to see how things come and go, fads come and go, and ideas, and what was interesting at the time. And also the obsession this particular magazine has with body image. Well, that's no surprise, I guess. And Oprah Winfrey, who makes many entries, many appearances throughout the years in this magazine. And also every 2 or 3 months comes up a story about new evidence or new staggering revelations into the death of Princess Diana. So-and-so tells all, or secret diaries reveal, all this sort of stuff. That's quite interesting. And celebrities who were big at the time, who you remember when you see them in the articles and look at the faces, but have long since retired or just faded from the limelight or something like that. But speaking of Oprah, here's a prediction I discovered from way back in 2006 by Scott Russell Hill, who predicted in the pages of the Woman's Day magazine, for those of you playing at home, 7th of January 2006, page 77. Oprah Winfrey will widen her humanitarian efforts in the US and internationally. Of course, it's all paving the way for her to be positioned to make the biggest changes she can. As US President, she will win by a landslide in 2012 or 2016. Oops. Now I've got the spreadsheet out here in front of me on the screen, with many tabs. A tab for every year from 2000 to 2017, plus what I'm calling my 2017 controls, which are predictions made by very non-psychic people. And I'm going to post these all up online in the next week. Hopefully in the next week at the Skeptic Zone website, so they're out there for all to see, and they'll be time-stamped, of course, and so we can't go back and fiddle them, alter them, tweak them to make predictions come true. Some of the predictions coming in from non-psychics, which I'm using for this project. Somebody predicts a grey horse wins the Melbourne Cup. Well, you know, most horses win the Melbourne Cup are sort of light brown or brown, I think, so that's interesting. Buckingham Palace targeted in terror attack. Well, I hope not, but with the recent news out of the UK, it's, we'll see what happens there. An advancement in spinal cord treatment will make the headlines. Well, I hope so. I certainly hope so. That's a prediction I hope comes true. And here's another prediction I hope comes true. Sir David Attenborough will survive the year. Let's hope so, and the next and the next. But just flipping through all the ones I have at random so far, we'll click the tab for 2007, 10 years ago. Let's see some of the interesting predictions that people foresaw in 2006 for 2007. There will be a major health problem with a very senior member of the royal family, perhaps Prince Philip. Now, this is interesting because over the years, the Queen and Prince Philip feature quite a lot. And one can't help but wonder, is it because of their old age? Maybe, possibly. They seem to appear quite a lot when it comes to health worries or health concerns. And if people in their 80s then and 90s now didn't have the odd health worry or health concern, that would be interesting. Now, a lot of these predictions I've noticed over the years are predicting what people generally expect will happen, as opposed to some magical revelation out of the blue about something you're not supposed to see or think is going to happen. For example, in 2007, somebody predicted John Howard, who was Prime Minister at the time. John Howard may not be re-elected. His likely successor is Malcolm Turnbull. Now, that was a general sort of feeling at the time. Now, in the event, this prediction was half right and half wrong, because John Howard did lose the next election, so he wasn't re-elected. But his successor was Tony Abbott, not Malcolm Turnbull, although Malcolm Turnbull later did succeed in the leadership. So, generally speaking, is that wrong or right? This is one of the things, too, which is interesting about this whole project, is some predictions are two predictions in one, and half the prediction is right and the other half is wrong. For example, there was another prediction I saw where a certain political party was predicted to win an election by a certain huge majority. In reality, they did win, but just scraped over the line. Now, is that prediction wrong or right? Or is it too vague, or is it half and half? There are many like that. It's an interesting process. Now, of course, not all the predictions are wrong or too vague or expected. Some are simply correct. And I think we have been saying this for many years when talking about predictions. In fact, the former president of the Australian Skeptics, Barry Williams, is on record talking about predictions many years ago, saying you make a lot of predictions, or psychics make a lot of predictions. Most are wrong, some are right, very few are right, and you just emphasize the ones you got right, and you can dine out on those, especially if you get one that's very unlikely, which comes true. And that I've been finding is the case in this project. Here's one made in 2009 by Milton Black, an astrologer, in the newspaper The Daily Telegraph, who is speaking about an upcoming lottery draw. Draw number 802 in the Oz Lotto. Numerologist, astrologist, and psychic Milton Black said Tuesday night's jackpot was definitely going to go off and would probably be shared rather than a single person win. Now, what you also have to do is go back and see the circumstances around any particular prediction. So I went back and I saw that was a case of a jackpot building over some weeks. So it was getting a lot, it was the money was building up. Indeed, when it finally went off, it was $53 million. Now, a lot of people were queuing up to buy tickets as the money increased, and I'm sure you've seen the same situation in no matter what country you're living in, where a jackpot builds, so more and more people get interested, and you get the queues forming, and so there's more chance, much more chance, that when it goes off, when the numbers come up, more than one person will have the lucky numbers, which is exactly the case for this prediction. So we discover that when the prize did go off, as predicted on the following Tuesday night, the prize was shared by two people. Two people were getting the right numbers. Now, in all fairness, I guess I'd have to call that prediction correct. Milton Black predicted what would happen, and it happened. But then again, would I put that correct but expected column? Correct but not too amazing prediction column? It's an interesting process. And here's another one made in 2006 by Scott Russell Hill. Woman's Day, 7th of January 2006, page 77. Prince William and Kate Middleton. We won't see much of William and Kate in public, but their relationship will flourish. He turns 24 this year and says he has much to do before getting married. But the search for a partner is over. They expect wedding bells for them around his 30th birthday. Well, there you go. Kate and William were married when William was just over 29. So, around his 30th birthday, 29, 30, what do you think? And that prediction was made some years before, so that's looking good for a correct prediction as far as I'm concerned. Every now and then, there simply are correct predictions. But before we wind up this segment, maybe you'd like to know some of the predictions made for this year. Now, earthquakes come up quite a lot over the years in predictions, and you won't be surprised that people are predicting earthquakes for San Francisco this year. Well, of course, San Francisco will have earthquakes this year. It's the size that we're interested in. And indeed, the prediction says San Francisco will suffer a big quake. Earthquakes, too, also predicted for Tokyo. Prince Harry getting married to the disapproval of the royal family. King tides destroying coastal beaches, as opposed to inland beaches, I guess. Donald Trump not lasting as US president. Well, we'll see. And here's an interesting one by Milton Black again, predicted for this year. Prime Minister Malcolm Turnbull will have an extremely challenging year, especially in February, March, June, July, November and December. Well, if the Prime Minister of a country didn't have a challenging year, then I don't think they'd be doing their job. And the last dreadful prediction I'll leave you with, which should send shockwaves of fear around the world. It's predicted this year, coffee crops destroyed and a rise in coffee prices. Well, let's hope that one doesn't come true. So that's an update to the ongoing prediction project, Project Prediction, the great predicting project. In a couple of weeks, I'm going to be meeting with some friends from the Stranger Things group. And we're going to be doing some more work, pouring through some of these predictions and trying to make sense of them. But the part of the project, which is the collecting of all these predictions, goes on. I've got many issues of this current magazine, The Woman's Day, to get through yet. I'll end up going through over 800, I think. And then I have to start work on another popular magazine here in Australia called New Idea. Another weekly magazine, so there'll be over 800 of those to get through too. Sometimes it's looking for a needle in a haystack, and I wish I could predict the final conclusions. Well, I probably can, but I'll keep you all informed as the year goes on, and maybe you would like to make your own set of predictions for the rest of this year. Quackwatch, your guide to quackery, health fraud, and intelligent decisions, operated by Stephen Barrett, MD. Quackwatch is now an international network of people who are concerned about health-related frauds, myths, fads, fallacies, and misconduct. Its primary focus is on quackery-related information that is difficult or impossible to get elsewhere. Articles on quackery include quackery, how should it be defined, how it sells, 26 ways to spot it, how it harms cancer patients, 7 warning signs for bogus science, why health professionals become quacks, and many more, including in-depth looks at acupuncture, chiropractic, homeopathy, naturopathy, and much more. Visit www.quackwatch.com. Thank you for listening to the Skeptic Zone. Now, next week, I hope to bring you a report from Maynard as he and I go to the Castaway Podcast Awards here in Sydney. And Maynard's up for one of the awards, so that's very exciting. But I'm sure we'll get some interesting quick interviews with some of the other podcasters around Sydney. I'm looking forward to that. And good luck, Maynard. If you want to wish Maynard luck personally, just visit maynard.com.au. Help yourself to the free calendar and, of course, to Maynard's very good podcast, very funny and hopefully award-winning podcasts, all there for you at maynard.com.au. Coming up on next week's show, some more about this Geoclense and the Orgone Effects Australia company. There's a bit more to this story, which is very interesting. And I can't help thinking that the people who should be very interested in this Orgone Geoclense device failing tests are fair trading. Fair trading in the state of Victoria, or the equivalent. We have fair trading here in New South Wales. I'm sure they have an equivalent. If something doesn't work, it doesn't work. And consumers should be aware. Thank you once again to those wonderful people who help the Skeptic Zone and other podcasts, of course, by chipping in. Many people chip in only $1 a week, which is great because it all adds up. It's like little drops going into a bathtub. Soon the bathtub well, you know what I mean. And if you feel like adding your own little drops to the Skeptic Zone, just visit skepticzone.tv and follow the links at the top of the page. Oh, and I think we've got a report coming up next week by Shelley Stocken. So yes, lots to look forward to for next week. That's so exciting. I think I better go and lie down. I'll go and lie down. So until next week, this is Richard Saunders signing off from a sunny but steamy Sydney, Australia. You've been listening to the Skeptic Zone podcast. Visit our website at www.skepticzone.tv for contacts, an archive of all episodes since 2008, and our online store. Please support the Skeptic Zone by following us on Twitter @SkepticZone, liking us on Facebook, and leaving a review on iTunes. You can also show your support by subscribing via PayPal for as little as 99 cents a week. The Skeptic Zone is an independent production. The views and opinions expressed on the Skeptic Zone are not necessarily those of Australian Skeptics Inc. or any other skeptical organisation. Now, some of these predictions are certainly general in nature. I mean, a lot of them are, in fact, general or... Hello? Hello? Yes? It's my research assistant. Maud, what do you want? You going to let me record the show? I'm just going to sit there and purr on my lap. I see. All right, I think we've got to scoot out the door.